Hello friends and welcome! It's Crystal Joy Johnson of C Joy Yoga online studio and wellness channel. And today we are going to go back into the ankle. Any of my friends who've been with me on this journey might remember that my little sister sprained her ankle pretty good. And so I'm just going to make a couple of things, but you don't have to have a sprained ankle. As a matter of fact, my ankle is not sprained, but I have sprained it in the past and it's pretty weak. And I was just working with a private client the other day, didn't sprain it at all, but he just has weak ankles and he's trying to figure things out, right? So these are just some little exercises that we can do both for mobility, and we'll also add a little bit of strength in. Okay, so one quick little thing to remember is we often think about this as having many motions, right? Or we think of it almost like it might be a ball and socket because it's able to go into a circle. But there are four. There are four motions to your ankle. They come from two different joints. So there is one joint in the ankle that allows you to go into dorsiflexion and plantar flexion, right? Plantar is on the bottom, plantar fasciitis on the bottom of my foot. So anytime I move that towards the midline, I'm in plantar flexion, aka point your toes. And the flexing of the foot is dorsiflexion, right? I'm pulling back and flexing in on the front side. So the other joint goes from pronation and supination, right? So that is pronation is what most of us are in, and most of us, when we sprain our ankle, we roll out because we're already in that direction, usually on the outer edge of our foot. And then supination would be if you just push down through the inner edge of the foot and you try to get that ankle to move down towards the inner edge of the foot to move down towards the ground, right? So you got pronation and supination, supination, plantar flexion, dorsiflexion. There's not a pop quiz, don't worry about it. But I do think that that's an important thing to know, because when you want to work the mobility and strength in the ankle, those are the four motions you want to work with. So I am blanking on which it was that you rolled, but I believe it was the right side. So we're going to start with the left side, the unaffected. If I'm wrong, maybe starting on that other side, right? And I always call it the unaffected side, and I think we get an education from that side. If we have one side that's injured or just has something going on in it that might not feel quite right, we can go to the side that seems unaffected, and we can be like, this is what it feels like, this is how it moves, this is what it does, and then try to bring that to the other side. So we'll work the left foot, and I'm going to work my right, but I'm mirroring, right? So from there, moving in and out of plantar and dorsiflexion. These are usually not the two that we have as much issues with, but it's still good stuff. Take your right foot and just simply step your right foot forward, but keep your heel planted. Don't go so far forward that you move the heel. Don't worry about ankle underneath knee or any of that stuff. It's about that back ankle right now, right? And then coming back, and then we're going to step back and we're going to lean back, and we're going to again keep the toes on. It's actually usually, for most folks, fairly simplistic. You might not be getting a lot of sensation, but that's okay. We're also working strength by picking up our foot and balancing for that hot moment. When you do that, by the way, notice if your weight goes out into the outer edge of the feet, or does it go into the inner edge of the feet when you transition through this. So now without stopping in the center, you'll see I'm starting to toggle back and forth, and that way I'm playing a little bit with my balance, but I'm also playing with the strength of the outer ankle, or inner, depending on what you need. And then just pause for a moment and just notice the effects of that. And just because that's who I am and how I like to learn, we could do this, and that's totally awesome. But we're contracting completely different muscles than if we keep the foot on, right? You can work the ankle, the joint, from above or below. This would be working it from below, with the foot planted and the foot not able to move. We have to work it from above, which is the one we don't do as often. So right foot's going to stay on the ground, get it really grounded. And then again, first we do the step between, just so we kind of sense the ankle, right? We're going to step forward, keeping that heel down and going into dorsiflexion. Step back through center, and then you're going to step back, and now we're in plantar flexion. And step forward. Does this side feel different than the other, right? And again, one more time with that midway stop, just so it's not completely in that outer ankle yet. So we work the joint without having to work the strength of it too much yet. But then when you are ready, maybe you bypass the center step, and I'm going to say hug the outer ankle in, especially for Sarah, right? But anyone else who rolls out, and it often goes into that pronation. And if you can't feel it and you don't know, Look at the bottom of your shoes, and they're pretty telling as to your patterns. Most of us, the majority of people I have studied, I do my mini researches, you know, I look at people's shoes, it's ridiculous. But if you look at the bottom of the shoe, you'll notice that the outside and a little bit more towards the heel are the pieces that are the most worn out on shoes. Now that might not be your pattern, and if so, what do you need to do to keep that straight through center so it's not a wobbling or a rolling in or out? You can see what it does above my ankle, right? It affects my knee and my hip and so on. And then come back to center. This may seem really silly and like it's not doing anything, but I swear to goodness, keeping your feet still and working from above the joint is brilliant therapy, right? So now we're gonna keep that left foot grounded, unaffected side, grounded. And we're gonna try to work through pronation and supination. The easier one to get through just balance-wise and everything else, right, is you step out, keeping that, so really this wants to pick up like crazy, push that down and keep the foot neutral, I'll call it, and then come back to center. Now to do the other one, it's kind of like a curtsy. You're gonna step the right foot back, but try to keep that inner edge down. It might wanna roll up, really push the inner edge down and try to let that shin bone come across, right? Back to center, boop. Now you know your pattern. Really concentrate. What's picking up? Can the whole, I call it the four corners of the foot. In Iyengar, we call it 3, right? But I think it's more simplistic for beginners to know the inner and outer heel and the ball mound of the big toe and the palm mound of the pinky toe. Can those 4 pieces stay down equally? And then if you want to play with that balance land, right? Toggle in and out, trying to keep the weight distributed evenly. Rather than going super far, I would so much rather have you do this little motion and have that whole thing planted, because if I keep picking that up every time I go over, I'm not getting any more mobility. No more mobility, right? Boop. Okay, come back to center. I'm done lecturing. Probably not though. And as that right foot plants down, again, we're gonna step out, keeping that pinky edge down. That's the part that wants to pick up here. Go slow on the first one just so you check it out, right? Come back to center. Go to your curtsy. Left foot's gonna go behind. Again, I'm gonna try and keep my shin kind of in line. And then I'm pushing through that inner heel and the ball mound of the toe. Come back to center. And all 4 corners of the foot really planting equally down. And then if and when you're ready, and if you feel like you want to work with some of that strengthening, right? You're going through balance land, you're bypassing. Notice if when you come up, does your ankle want to roll out or in? And try to do the action that keeps that neutral. Sarah, for us, it's hugging the outer ankle in. And then come back to center. I always feel more sensation up here because I've been using my quads and my stuff, but, right? Tune into your ankles, and if that helps to close the eyes and just tune in around your ankles and just notice what you notice. And while you're there with your awareness in your ankles, and I'm going to bring it to the feet, I guess, but again, are you putting all of the weight in the pinky edge of the foot or the big toe side of the foot? Is it more in the heels or more in the toes? And the funny thing is, when I walk, it's usually back in my heels on the outer side, but when I'm standing still, it's in the pinky toe edge, but all the way up towards the pinky toe that most of my weight goes. So I have to remember to put more weight in my heels and to try to hug my outer ankles in, AKA push down at the inner edge of the foot a little bit. Open the eyes if they were closed. And then let's go ahead and just do one more that's in that same vein. So this one is not major strengthening. This is more about that mobility, right? So I'll do another one soon that'll be the strengthening again. So you could sit on a chair. I just don't have one right next to me, so I'm going to use my blocks. So added footwork, right? And this foot could be wherever it needs to be. Don't try to mimic my thing necessarily, but hopefully we can get this foot somewhere, right, about at the knee, where we can start to weave in our fingers. So I have my right foot, and I'm putting my left fingers in. If you're on the other foot, it really doesn't matter, right? I'll just talk about the one we're working on. And so now we're going to work it from the other side of the joint. So you might just hang it over right? For some of us, hip-wise, that's not available. You might do a little forklift. My only request is you try to lengthen the spine as best you can, or, you know, whatever that is for you. This is a pretty supported position. And if I were on a chair, this is what I would probably be doing. And now you're going to try to keep all the muscles as soft as you can. And now go ahead and work those joints from the foot side. And go ahead and move the other way. But notice that even as I'm moving my foot, and I'm not contracting, boy, there's a lot of muscular action going all the way up into the knee. And if you can't get the toes, you could, you know, just grab onto the foot. But boy, this is really, really good for your footwork. And who knows, maybe there's a pattern in the foot that helps cause the ankle to be weak. Not in an injury case, but. And then go ahead and let that go. You might just go ahead and take the hand since we're there, a little added bonus, and just kind of pulse through the bottom of the foot or into the arch or whatever feels good. And then bring that foot down. And again, however it works for you, you're going to try to interweave your left fingertips into your right foot. And I have a little bit of injury on a couple of my fingers, so I'm not going to do that version today with my full hand, so please forgive me. And then that foot can be out, and you can just hang over the edge. And you're just going to go ahead and, again, keeping your shin still. Now we're working it from the other side of the joint. You can do this quicker. You don't have to take as much time as we're taking today once you get familiar with it. But that said, when we speed through things, go the other direction. I feel like that is where we start to, awareness is the key. I mean, like over and over, it's being shown in all kinds of medical research and, you know, scientific testings and da-da-da-da-da-da. So if you really want to change the patterns, bring the awareness to it, which to me means move slower. So go ahead and put the feet down on the ground, or you can cross the legs. But again, when we start to do this, boy, if we come onto that pinky edge, we're letting that ankle dome down. And if you're a roller outer, you're right back into that pattern. So I would say not doing that might be better today. And then as you let the feet just stay there, maybe it's all the way out. I hyperextend, so that's not comfortable for me. Just take a second, maybe close the eyes, tune into ankles. And one of the things that I hope this work does, right? Another thing is opening up channels of energy. You know, when we have an injury and there's swelling and inflammation, and then it's not quite able to bear weight yet, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Boy, the muscles, the tissues, the ligaments, all the things down there are affected by that. Maybe we're overcompensating on the other side for it. So just being able to let the channels of energy is how I think of it, right? Opening up that area. If there's any residual swelling or fluid, da-da-da-da-da-da-da. May you be well. May your ankles be well. I love you. Namaste. Hopefully it's helpful.